Hi, welcome to Enlightened Conversations with Karen Andrews Roberts. Today I'm having a chat with a lovely young man, Scott Knight, and he has such a beautiful, deep connection to his guides and to the spirit world, and a real passion to help people connect with what's going on in their physical bodies so that we can listen to what our physical bodies are telling us and bring things to the surface so that we can acknowledge them and we can work through them. So I would love to introduce you to Scott.
Hey Karen, how you going? And hey everyone. Yeah.
We're good. Thanks, Scott. Yeah, really, really lovely to connect with you today and talk with you. And I'd really love to hear more about your journey, because I know that you started your journey when you were really young. And I really, really love that, especially for you as a man, being able to show other men a beautiful way of connecting with your guides, and knowing that this is something you started when you were a young boy and that you've continued to today. So I think it's a really beautiful reminder for many, many people. And I think it's really beautiful for men too, who can relate to another man on a spiritual journey.
Yeah, so my journey did start when I was very young. So I was around, well, from memory, I'm not too sure exactly how young I was when it all started coming together, but I always did have a very strong connection with my higher self and my guides. And I've always been directed to becoming a more conscious being. That's the overall thing that I've been working on through my life journey. So from what I can remember, I started listening to my guides about meditation and universal knowledge when I was about 10 years old. And the first thing that I learned about was the no point or nothingness, and then seeing how all of creation comes from this point. And then as I evolved I did mainly contemplating meditations to start off with, and then it went into working with the energy body. So I got to a certain point of knowing within myself to then be able to expand my consciousness enough that I could feel the energy body. And then once I started to be able to feel the energy body, I could engage with my body on an energy level, which meant that I could travel through my body and expand my consciousness throughout my whole entire body. And the first meditations that I learned were to see where blocks were in the body and to clear them, and then just to move on and then build up from there. So when I got a little bit older, I thought I might be able to help some people out with what I've learned. So I started doing healings on people, which was just basically bringing the conscious perception to points that I've found in their body, and then help them work through that block just by bringing the energy to that place. And then when you stimulate the energy, it brings consciousness to it, and then the body can start to work with it. And then you get the release, you get the acknowledgement that what's there is there. Then so the person who I'm working with can see what's there, which is often the point we just miss it all the time. We don't know what's there, so we don't know why we're having the issues that we're having. So yeah, it's basically just identifying with what's there that we're not looking at.
And yeah, I really agree with you too, Scott, where, bringing consciousness to it. And you are someone that learned at such a young age to connect with your higher self, to connect with your guides, to meditate. And to me, this is the key for our happiness, that we're not just a physical body. We're actually an energetic body, or a soul in a physical body with many, many layers. And we need to address those and care for ourselves on every level. So mind, body, spirit, the physical level, you know, every level needs to be cared for and nurtured and connected to. And so I feel that this is where a lot of people can be finding that they get a bit stuck because they don't have that connection to their soul. And I find it quite amazing that you learnt that at such a young age. And you know, it's beautiful that you've been able to develop it and still be such a young man and so connected and using it daily.
Yeah, I think the benefit that I have was establishing that strong connection at such a young age, because I find now that you have more stress and more problems in your life, just listening becomes so much harder because you have so many things that you're doing in your life. It's such a big distraction, so it's hard to just listen. And when you're, you know, a younger person, the distractions or the things you're dealing with in your day-to-day life are very minimal in comparison to an adult life. So by learning what I learned, learning how to listen basically, when I was younger, and being able to tune to my guidance and to my guides and my higher self, it's really just given me massive advantages in my life now, because when things come in, I can just listen so clearly. It's just like a person's talking to me, not really outside, like, but I can just hear it very clearly. That I'm not getting muddled up in the messages that I'm getting. And I think that helps with making intuitive decisions, and just feeling into things, whether it's right for you or not right for you, or if it's going to be dysfunctional for you, or if it's not. And that can lead down to the smallest decisions, to like, if I eat this, is it going to be beneficial? You know, it's just, you know, it works on all levels. And because you're mainly interacting with your higher self, it doesn't matter what you ask. It doesn't matter what you're looking at. It's beneficial or not beneficial to self. And that's what the overall outcome needs to be. So yeah, it's good that I've formed that relationship. And that's what I'm trying to teach people now, is to form a relationship with their body and with their energy body, with their higher selves and with their guides, to listen and to get answers and to ask questions, and what questions to ask around different issues.
Yeah, I love all that. And I really have been talking about this with people lately, that we seem to learn things backwards growing up, a lot of us, things are outside of ourselves. That's where we're going to be happy. You know, we do really well and study hard and get a really good job and you know, bring in lots of money and have a nice house and lots of outside things. Whereas I find myself, I've come back from all of that to a place of actually my happiness is the most important thing. And connecting, well, how do I get happy? I get happy through connecting with my higher self, because that is the part of me that knows happiness, that knows love, that knows expansiveness, that knows what I'm here to do this life, and has messages for myself on how to address issues in my body, in my life. So I think that that connecting is so important with our soul, and that happiness comes from that, and that's our main objective, to do that first, and everything else will come.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, what are you here to do? Like finding your essence and what it is you're here to do. And that's where the listening comes in so important, because like you said, on the external world, you're given all these options and all these choices and everything that you can do possibly, and all this advice from external people saying, you know, you should probably go down this track or this track or this track. But if you can't listen into what your body's telling you, what your energy influence is telling you, then you're not going to know what's in line with you. And then so if you take on external things and say, okay, I'm going to become this, and then you start doing it, and then you realize that it's really not making you happy, it's because you haven't figured out how to listen to what it is that you need to be doing. And it's very tricky listening to the body because it's not being taught in mainstream anything. You have to really go to some sort of class or something, to learn this. And there's many things out there, and they all teach different ways of doing it. It's just what resonates with the person at the time, I guess. But it is something that I think as a society we need to start doing, at least, is learning how to connect in with ourselves, to see what inspires us, what energy comes up for, and then to make actions on these things. And that's what can be quite difficult as well, because when we're taking action from ourselves, it puts all the responsibility on what we're doing in life on us. And it, with the system that we've got now, we can say, well, this person is giving me a job to do, so I can go and do that job, and I'll take these actions, but I'm not really held 100% accountable for my actions. I work for this company, and it just dissipates the responsibility. But when you're working from yourself, every action that you take, you're fully responsible for. So I think there's a few things that need to be looked at, but I think the power of acting from the self far outweighs, just going off and working for someone else, or, not being from yourself. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes absolute sense. And, I was just seeing as you were talking that, for many of us when we're born, for many of us, many of our parents and, the generations that came before, they've passed down what they knew. And a lot of that may not have had anything about being happy or connecting with the soul. So, we're born and we just get further and further away from who we really are and outside of ourselves. And I guess what I've been learning to do is come more and more back into myself and live from that part. And exactly what you're saying, that's where it all stems from, and that connection. And everything else is very empty if we don't have that connection to our higher self. Everything else does feel very empty. That's the part of us that can fill us up and can heal past wounds and guide us on where we're meant to be going. And so that's right. And I think people go to classes, so that's how they learn how to do this if they haven't learnt it growing up.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so that's pretty much, that's right. So the things that I find are challenging when you're doing this is the body talks in a different language than what we're used to, and it's all about feelings and emotions, and that can be a big obstacle, especially being brought up as a male in the Western world, to feel your emotions and to feel what you're driven to do, and to have a relation with your body in your feelings. You know what I mean? A lot of our culture, sort of shuns that, like, as a male, if you're in your feelings, you're a bit of a girl, or, if you're emotional, there's a lot of stuff, especially when you're at school, about that, and a lot of bullying and stuff goes along, which makes men detached from that, and they become very desensitized, and they become very mental, and so they become very detached from their emotions or what their body is saying to them. And then they come up against like problems, like they might have knee problems or back problems or all this sort of stuff later in their life, because all they can do is just feel what's going on up here. They're totally detached from their bodies or what emotions they're feeling or what's happening, and then they're just moving forward in their life through their mind, which creates so much resistance throughout the whole entire body, because it's not in line with the body, it's not in line with their purpose. And then they get all this dysfunction. And that's the sort of people that I attract and treat, is people that have gone through their life completely ignoring their body, and then they've come up with all this dysfunction and they can't fix it because they're not dealing with what's going on inside. So then I just take them through the process, take them back into the body, show them what's there, let it come up, let them realize it and let it release, and then teach them how to then reconnect in with the body so they can have a communication with the body so that they don't bring in new dysfunctions, because it's a continuing thing, and it's a very hard thing to teach, because you have to break people's habits, and the habits can be that I just live my life this way. That's how I've done it all my life. But that way of living is what's created all the dysfunction. So, you know, it's a big process, but it's a worthwhile one.
It is a worthwhile one, and it can be easy, and it's really unlearning, as you say, habits, things that have become habits, and we can unlearn them, and it can be an easy process. It doesn't have to be hard. It is just learning new habits, and it is about being consistent with those on a daily basis. And I think, you know, what you say about men is so true. And I know that for us in our family that we live very consciously, and that was something that was very important to us for our son. And also our three daughters, we talk about emotion and feelings, and I guess because I've been on my spiritual path for 20 something years, that my kids have all grown up with this, and listening to our bodies and talking to our higher selves and meditating and all sorts of beautiful processes that keep us connected. And for our son, our son's obviously had some beautiful healing work with you, and has a beautiful connection with you, and he is very connected to his body. And I guess that's really important for us, for him becoming a man, that he stays in that connection and keeps that. And you know, his life is driven from that he'll always listen to his intuition and know what's right for him.
Yeah, it's a very powerful tool, the intuition, to making very key decisions in life, and being able to make the right decisions, especially when they're big decisions, to intuitively feel in, you know, does this feel right? It's a very simple process. You can just feel it in your body. It's just like, if I make this decision, your body goes, wah, or if I make this decision, it goes, ah. You're like, oh, well, that's a pretty easy decision to make. But when you're mentally thinking at it, that decision that's like, oh, that's the best decision, can seem like the stupidest decision that you could possibly make, you know. And the decision that makes you feel terrible inside could be the smartest, best way, you know, that it often happens that way. But you find that the people that make the intuitive based decisions, they just live a smoother, happier life. And the people who make decisions, I call them fear-based decisions. Every decision that's made with the mind is mainly made out of fear, of survival, of what is the best thing to do. You know, it's all sort of fear-based, and then you sort of start to just have a fear-based life. You know, every decision you make through the mental pathways becomes sort of slightly fear-based or dramatically fear-based, just depending on the situation. And then you start to get the contraction in the body, which a lot of people have, and they get the tension and the build-up of tension, and then they get the migraines and the neck pain and the back pain and all the tightness in their hips. And you can just sort of you can see their thought train when you see these things happening in their body. They're not going from the intuitive side, they're going with their mental decision making. And the mental decision making does come into, you know, use on certain decisions, but it's just not a tool that you should use throughout your whole entire life, especially with your life's path. Maybe things like, which TV should I buy? I can, you know, document and look at these different forums, and, you know, let your mind go crazy with that sort of stuff. Or, you know, you could just go intuitively, what's going to be the best TV? And if you're good enough at feeling, you'll find the right one. But, you know, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, so true. And you know, with what you were saying with that mental thinking as well, that when we are really disconnected from our higher self and who we intrinsically are, life does seem really hard. It does seem really overwhelming, and it feels like that's who we are. It engulfs you. And so that's why I'm saying with healing that it can be really simple, because we step out of the part of us that makes things difficult, which is the ego, that sees the problems and the issues and the limitations and why this won't work and I'm not good enough and what will they think of me. When we step out of that part into our soul, you're automatically connected to a stream of love, of knowing, of calmness, of ease and grace. And that doesn't mean that life is going to flow really easily and nothing bad will ever happen. It just means that you follow your intuition through your life. You connect with your inner being and you make those decisions, those intuitive-based decisions, and things do flow more easily. And even in the moments that we feel are really hard or really challenging, you have a part of you on board that can navigate it so much more lovingly and with so much more ease and grace. But you have no awareness of that until you connect in with it. And so that's why, you know, I think the trauma and all of that stuff that's happened in our lives, we can actually heal easily, with ease and grace and gentleness. We don't need to go back into the trauma. When we connect with the part of us that knows love, we can heal in a really beautiful way and move forward in a beautiful way. So
yeah, you're right.
And so, Scott, have you found, like, through your connection with people doing healing, because you are a male who is so connected and so enlightened, that do you attract more males to you or women? You know, it could be women coming to you wanting to help with the males in their life as well. Who do you find comes and sees you?
I get a mix of both female and male, pretty even really. The people that come to me normally are the people who have tried everything and they need some real help, and they've not received any help with anything they've done, and they cannot understand why that they've not received help, the actual help that's helped them with their issue. And normally I hear it a lot is, I wish I found you 6 years ago. I wish I found you when this all started, you know, because they've been through so much, you know, so much going to this person, doing these treatments, or going to the doctors, having surgery, doing this, doing that, you know, and it just wears them down. And then they come to a person like me and I look into them and then I go, well, look, right here, this is what we're actually dealing with. And because the body expresses itself in such a strange way to us, you may have never have found it. You may never have found that spot if you weren't trained in how to find it. And once that spot's found and I bring them into that spot and then we can release it, the energy releases through them, and everyone has a different experience. Some have like electric feelings shooting from head to toe, or some have like or it's a variety. Some people just feel warmth, some people feel feathers brushing up and down them. You know, I think it's their expression of the release that comes through. But the problem dissolves, and that's the thing. And I have so many people who, you know, I've seen throughout, you know, a progression of time, and I'll say to them, because, you know, you work on the very top layer issues, which are the ones that are seen most, and then you sort of work right down into the core to then dissipate it completely. And on their journey, I ask them, you know, what did you come here to see me for in the first place? And they often don't remember, because it's completely gone from their body. They're just like, no idea. And I'll be like, remember that back pain that you were suffering from that you couldn't get rid of, and they'll be like, oh yeah. But it's gone. It's no longer in their life. Their body's moved on. It's not in their energy makeup. They don't have it, but they have the mental memory of it, and they have the suffering that they went through in the past. Sometimes it needs to be brought back up, because people tend to live in the future a lot of the time. So, you know, if they're not dwelling in the past, they'll forget completely all about it, which is great. But it is always best to keep going to get that core issue. And what I'm discovering now is it's not a matter of getting rid of it. That's a core sort of like, that's a place where the body speaks to you from. It's like maybe like a chakra, or the energy from the chakra. That's the communication part that you need to build up that communication level with. And once you are able to establish that communication level, then when it sends out those signals, it could be emotional feeling or anything, you know that it's there, and then you can go, okay, I'm feeling this means I need to go into it or feel into it, or what actions am I doing wrong, or what am I running from, or, you know, all this sort of stuff. And then the dysfunction won't come up again, won't build up again, because it takes sometimes years to build up a dysfunction like what we're talking about. And it's so the symptoms from the starting point are so minor that you wouldn't really figure them out until they got to a tangible feeling. And that's why I think it's so important to become so much more sensitive in the body, and then you can deal with things as they come in that very moment, because you're connected. But at the time we're in, disconnection's pretty common. And I think that's why people like me and you are here, to help people just to come into their body and reconnect, and then build that up a little bit for the people who are searching for connection.
Yeah. I really love what you were just saying, about the connecting, helping people to reconnect. And I think that's why you and I connected so instantly as well, is because we work in a similar way of empowering people. So not here to give people the answers, but here to help people connect to their own bodies and get their own sense of what the messages are telling them, and what is this saying to me. Just getting so deeply connected to and sensitive to the messages that their own body's giving them, that they can read them and understand them themselves. And it's really important that we're all about empowering people to be able to listen to their bodies themselves. And that's such a powerful thing to be able to do. And when you were saying about these blocks can take years to build up. So the healing journey, this is where it does need to be consistent, and a daily new practice of connection, of nurturing, of listening to our bodies, so that we can start to unravel that stuff that we've got around us that has covered up the authentic, intrinsic part of us.
Yeah, that's right. I did have something I wanted to say, and now I think I've forgotten it. I hate it when that happens. It's totally gone. If you got something to say, just go for it.
Well, I guess that, it's just so lovely to meet a male like you that is really so connected. And for me, when I talk to you, because my path has been such a spiritual one for so long, that this is how I live in my family, and this is how I choose to connect with my husband, with our 4 kids. So it's really lovely for me as a female to have a friend like you that is a male that's so enlightened, that in listening to you, it helps me then connect with Dan, my husband, more, and understand, him as a male and how his spiritual journey evolves. And I
Mm.
think that's so, so helpful. And I guess that's why you and I have decided to start running classes together soon and
Yeah.
putting together what we both do. For me as a female, understanding females and helping women to find that balance, find that connection, to empower them, and
Mm.
you doing that as well, as a male, and putting it all together. And I guess that's, yeah, why we've connected so strongly. And
Mm. Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, and it brings that feminine and masculine balance in, and it brings because I am not in a feminine body, so I don't know the feminine ways of being, and you're the vice versa. So it's just the different angles that we're looking at, and we can sit and have conversations about the different issues and the different things that come up, or how a man sees things to how a woman sees things, and then we can be like, oh, it's so different, or it's much the same, or different things like that. I have remembered what I was going to say, and I feel it's fairly important. When a person has an issue that they're looking to get rid of, and I've been really focusing on the whole getting rid of an issue or getting rid of the pain. I often think or say to that person, what part of yourself are you trying to get rid of? Because it's a part of their body that's trying to communicate with them, and it could be their intuition, it could be some extraordinary part of themselves, because we haven't fully developed the human body yet with our spiritual connection with the body, and we're still very much in a learning process. And the pain that comes up from the disconnection that we have, if we have that mind concept of, I need to get rid of this, I need to take this away, that is saying to your body, I'm not ready for you, and I want you to go away, and I think it's a really, we need to, well, I'm a leader in this now. I'm changing my whole perception on that. I'm not seeing things as dysfunction, I'm seeing things as lack of connection, and I'm seeing things as, when I have dysfunction come up, I see things as a power that I have not harnessed yet. So they're my inner powers, and they're not being harnessed. And this is the dysfunction that we go through in day-to-day life, and our pain. And it's all just the lack of connection, lack of communication, and not harnessing our inner power, and it coming through in disastrous ways sometimes, or just niggling, annoying ways. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. Also, one other thing that come to me was about rhythm and routine, and we've talked about this a fair bit. And a lot of what's been coming to me lately, because I do channeling, so I channel in lots of information from my guides and my higher self. This is mainly for my own life, and I just spread the word about what's going on, because that's just what I do. Rhythm and routine, and the stress and the anxiety that the mind goes through, and then insecurity that the mind goes through. So the mind, from what's been said to me, and my observations, is that the mind is very insecure, and it's always trying to create a future for us, even though that future may never manifest. It just needs to have something that it's clinging to. So when you bring rhythm and routine into your life, the mind knows what you're going to do next. It doesn't have to try and create something out of nothing. It knows at 11 o'clock we do this, at this time we do this, blah, blah, blah. And there's always allowance for flexibility in rhythm and routine. It's depending on what's happening in the day. But I find if you give your mind the schedule, because that's how it works, it feels secure in what you're doing. And then that allows you to have more time to connect. Because the mind, if it's feeling insecure, if you're saying, I just want to go into my body right now, it'll just say to you, I'm sorry, I need time to imagine a future for myself so I can feel secure right now. Or I need to do something so that I can feel like I'm being productive. So, you're working with your mind's insecurities. So if you bring security to your mind through rhythm and routine, it allows you more time to come into yourself. And I think that in itself is a very powerful tool for inner connection and coming into the now, because that's where it's all at.
Yep, so true. And yeah, I love what you just said as well. And again, I think that's why our paths have crossed recently too, because we are in that the same, living the same way, having the same ways of connecting spiritually and what we're wanting to do in our lives. And yes, that rhythm and routine that we've talked about and how important it is. And yeah, definitely for the mind, I think, to feel secure. I know I feel better with a routine, and you and I have both spoken about how we get up at 5 a.m. and have a self-love, self-care routine of meditation, of exercise, of whatever it is that begins our day with love and connection to ourselves, that we're doing that. And I see with our children in our family too how important it is that that we are very routine and rhythm based, and that I see with our children that they respond so much better. Children feel safe and probably like our mind. They know what's happening, they know what's coming, and that's all in a thing of flexibility, that yes, at any time, you know, things can happen and the routine goes out. But when you know that there is a beautiful routine inbuilt and you can be flexible and flowing with that, things do flow really well.
Mm. Mm.
So, Scott, can you just tell us before we finish up, please, can you let people know where they can contact you, how they can get in contact with you, and just about your business? That would be great.
Yeah, so I do distant healing and healing from my space. You can get in contact with me from healingtheenergybody.com, or you can look me up on Facebook as well with Healing with Scott Knight. You'll find me. Yeah, but so you can either come to me, I live in Brisbane, in Sanford, the Sanford area, or you can do a distant healing with me. Either way, I've been doing lots of both, so I find them both really interactive, and you know, we get to the core issues. So yeah, if you need to find me, that's where you can find me.
Oh, thank you so much for today, Scott. I have so enjoyed doing this, and I just feel like I just learned so much more. And, you know, my communication with you just allows me to think bigger within myself spiritually. So I really love that, yeah, that it's just a really mutually, you know, benefiting relationship in the way that we're both growing spiritually and learning about things in a different way, and being able to take them into our families and, you know, friends and lives, and then also with the classes that we're going to be starting here in Sanford. So yeah, thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Scott. Bye.
Bye.